So we watched The Lion King.
2019.
2019. Did it suck or slap? Well, we haven't really talked about it yet, so let's talk about it.
Life's not fair, is it, my little friend? While some are born to feast, others spend their lives in the dark. Begging for scraps.
Lion King, suck or slap. 1, 2, 3.
Oh man, I've never been this sure about anything in my entire life. This movie's garbage. Let's hear what you have to say about it.
So I'm kind of on the fence. I'd say, I don't know if it really sucked, but it definitely didn't slap. It was a movie that I went to watch in the theater, so it was an event, so it couldn't have
You gotta
sucked.
stop. You gotta stop doing that.
Yeah.
That means you can't say something sucks. And
That's
you've hamstrung yourself now.
It kind of sucked, honestly. First of all, one thing I'd like to point out is that we didn't need this movie at all.
Oh yeah, it's completely unnecessary. And why make something if it's unnecessary?
And also, you can't call it a live-action movie because it's just another animated Lion King.
Yeah, it's another animated Lion King, only it's ugly this time.
Yeah, and it's ugly and uncomfortable because none of the animals' faces emote.
Yeah,
Because they're
animals
supposed to be realistic.
Yeah, animals' faces don't do that. Humans' faces don't emote to the point that they did in the animated movie.
Yeah.
Like, we can be doing all of this, and we're still nowhere near where a cartoon is.
Right.
So, turns out The Lion King has a pretty okay script.
Yeah,
Because without the glorious execution and the color and the direction and like the presentation of everything, it's a snooze fest. That story is boring.
I was gonna say, this Lion King is basically if someone had watched The Lion King so many times that they knew exactly how the story went and when the story was going there, but they didn't memorize the script. That's basically what it was.
That's a good way of putting it. Because there's parts where lines are spoken not quite right, but they get the gist correct.
Yeah.
And like, there's the whole part where they clearly understood why Hakuna Matata is a just useless philosophy, but then they explain it, and they have Timon and Pumbaa explain it, and where it's like, Timon and Pumbaa present Hakuna Matata as something so indefensible and so useless that Simba would have to be a complete fool to not turn on it and go be responsible at that point.
Yeah.
But then he still needs more convincing, despite all that. They added this extra scene where it's after Simba's talking about, what's in the stars or whatever. He says that his father told him about, the great circle of life and stuff like that. And then right after that, Timon and Pumbaa basically just break down why Hakuna Matata is the most inferior philosophy in comparison to that. And it was like, why are we getting this from these guys? Shouldn't they be the ones who are like saying, this is why it's good, this is why we like it? And then Simba turns on it anyway because he's like, I can't do it. I gotta go take responsibility. I gotta go take my place.
Oh.
I have to go. I have to go serve my purpose. I think they don't say it word for word, but it's so close to Timon and Pumbaa are just saying, Hakuna Matata is just aimless nihilism and it goes nowhere, and it does nothing for you.
Yeah.
Which is like, it lets you be a lazy loser, so.
Yeah.
That's a benefit to those two who were lazy losers, and then by the end are no longer that because they now have a leader in Simba. Then they're helping people now.
Yeah.
It was really weird. I think it's funny. All of the live action remakes take these like auteur directors. Like this did Jon Favreau, who's one of my favorite directors ever. Aladdin did Guy Ritchie. And then Cinderella had Kenneth Branagh. I don't know who else did the rest of them, but it takes these recognizable director names who are known for their unique style and deletes their unique style to the point where there was no reason to have them like working on it at all. Like, I don't see any of Jon Favreau in this movie.
I didn't laugh a single time.
Yeah, I think I laughed once.
I was horrified a couple times because the hyenas are just
Yeah, they're kind
nightmare.
of. Yeah, they're unsettling, and their humor is awful.
Yeah.
Like they took the 3 funny hyenas from the original movie. I think turned one of them into this stoic, unlikable, just bland, never shows any emotion leader or whatever. She was really dull.
Yeah.
And they tried to like give her some rivalry with
No.
Nala. It felt totally flat. And then Ed and I don't remember Cheech's hyena's character's name, but they took those 2 guys and turned them into one is just not respecting the personal space of the other, and that is the joke. Like 4 times, like the 4 times they're on screen alone, the joke is this hyena like keeps going and like laying next to the other one, like dogs do, and then the other dog gets up and moves, and then the other dog goes over and sits on it again, and like you've seen dogs do that, and that's funny one time, but that was the only joke they had. Like that was the characters. All of the striking imagery from the original movie is gone, and there's not even a trace of it.
I feel like, and we were thinking about going back and watching the original Lion King just as a comparison, but it turned out we just
Didn't have time
didn't
for
have
it.
time for it. But I think from what I can remember, the line deliverance on the original movie line delivery is just so much better in my brain. I feel like I don't want to go back and like see that it's not, but like from what I remember, the line delivery was a lot better in the original. This one, everything just fell flat on its face.
Yeah, everything about this movie, like the one word to describe it is flat. The humor's flat, the images are flat, the songs are flat.
And even, I feel like Mufasa, even though I know it was
James Earl
Jones, he wasn't, his heart wasn't in this one, for sure.
We went right over 3 different things, and I want to come back to each of them.
Okay.
But since we're on that one, James Earl Jones was the worst possible person to cast as Mufasa. Because Mufasa is supposed to be in his prime at the beginning of Lion King. He sounds elderly, exhausted, and lost in this movie. And it's really depressing. And it makes it hard to feel sorry when he finally dies. Because it's like...
Oh, he was just an old man.
Yeah, he was this horribly haggard old man. And it was like... I guess you don't really see that in the image performance, but there is no performance. It's just a freaking lion. But
Yeah.
with his voice performance, it's like... and he's delivering some of the same lines. Some of the stuff has changed to be a little less intimidating. Like, they dumb down a lot of the stuff he says, and they make it to where he's more talking about, kings shouldn't take, they should only give. Because it's like, oh, sharing's good, even though it's not his message at all. No, it's like, take responsibility. Don't take the resources, but you are responsible for all this.
Yeah.
And, a king is going to be a king. You take what you need. That was the message of the original. This one's like, oh, don't be mean. But, this one's very limp, flat, weak.
All of it, everything about it was limp, flat, and weak. Like the part... Keep going. I'll hold this thought
go
for
ahead,
later.
go ahead.
I was just thinking about the part, the... what was the name of the song in the original where Nala and Simba finally meet again?
Okay. Can You Feel the Love Tonight?
Yeah.
Which takes place in the mid-afternoon.
Yeah.
With the sun up.
Uh-huh. Huh.
I couldn't actually believe that while it was happening.
The fact that Rafiki wasn't a part of that scene at all. He was barely part of this movie.
Yeah, Rafiki's barely in it. He's not funny. They don't give him any jokes.
Yeah. He's there for like basically one scene. We get to see his Rafiki personality come out. But then it's like...
I don't remember it. What was that?
When he was leading him through the jungle to try to show him...
Was that a personality, though? It kind of sounded like he was just kind of humming to himself while leading him slowly through this boring ravine.
I'm looking at this movie as someone who has seen the original and remembers
the original. Well, that's how everyone is. Everyone saw the original. It's so useless. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it is. But, like, I feel like they were trying... They made this movie for an audience that had already seen the original movie. And they didn't make this movie for an audience that hadn't seen the original movie yet because it's old or whatever.
I think they made this movie for suckers like us, who are going to go watch it because we want to talk bad about it. And this is why, and I said this a while back, The Lion King is going to be the last live-action Disney movie I watch, just because I want to know, because this will either be the best one or the worst one. Mm-hmm. It is the worst one, in my opinion. Well, I don't know, it's hard to get around Beauty and the Beast. Beauty and the Beast is a travesty. Like, Beauty and the Beast so completely misunderstands its own story. Yeah, never mind. Beauty and the Beast is the worst. Also, like, what's her name? Emma Thompson? Awful singer. She's a worse singer than Seth Rogen. And Seth Rogen is a really bad singer.
Yeah, Seth Rogen can't.
Like, compared to original Pumbaa, who could, like, just bring a house
Opera?
down. Yeah.
He's an opera singer.
It's fantastic. No, Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen needs to stop being cast in voice roles because he can't voice act. That's not his thing. I'm not even really sure he can act. He can direct okay, but his acting is being a character actor that is someone who just doesn't really emote that much and is kind of high all the time, which basically anyone can do. Mm-hmm. It's just that he's that person in real life, so it kind of works. He's terrible over voice, and he's terrible being someone who isn't just a kind of unlikable stoner. Mm-hmm. So, this Timon they had, never heard of him before. Apparently he's a stand-up comedian. Nowhere near as good as Nathan Lane. Mm-mm. And I'm sorry, but you have to do the comparison because it's so similar, and it's by the same company, and one of the voice actors is the same. So, like, you can't help but compare it. It's there to be compared against it. And this Timon just isn't funny. He's kind of annoying. Like, him and Pumbaa, they take their jokes from the original, where it was like, what's a motto? And he's like, I don't know, what's the motto for you? They do that, and then after he makes that joke, they make Pumbaa, like, say, nice. And then he explains the joke. And it was like, who is this for? First of all, that joke is for a little kid. A little kid finds that joke really funny. The little kid doesn't need it explained. Who needs the joke explained? Adults sure don't. We're smarter than kids. Mm-hmm. All of the voice. Okay, so getting back to the lawnmower. Getting back to the two other things that I wanted to talk about. The third one was kind of Mufasa, but the animation, just the way everything looks. A lot of the emotional parts from that movie come from what things looked like. Yeah. Like, be prepared with the green and the smoke and everything looking really sinister. Mm-hmm. It's gone in this movie.
It's just a dark cave.
Yeah. Can't Wait to Be King. All of, like, the color that explodes when he, like, pounces at Zazu. And, like, everything is, like, blue and red and, like, yellow. All that stuff. And there's, like, patterns and they do these cool transitions. All of it's gone. They don't even have add like a filter or change the weather or time of day to fit anything.
Yeah.
Like, we don't get cool dramatic moments of, like, moonlit areas. And it's like, I've seen nature documentaries that look more dramatic than this in what they look like. Like, it seems like there's more mood lighting in nature documentaries because I'm sure nature documentaries are color corrected. This looked like it wasn't even color corrected, which is impossible because it's all CGI.
Yeah.
But, so yeah.
All of the musical numbers when things should have gotten crazy and vibrant and, like, weird, unrealistic things happening. None of that
Moody
happened.
And mushy.
Yeah.
With Can You Feel the Love Tonight? None of that's there. Like, it's just flat,
kind of
midday.
Around with each other.
Yeah, it's like...
They don't fly around on flower petals onto waterfalls or anything.
I think you're thinking of Lion King 2. They got a little more crazy
they got
with their romance scene. That was like a freaking theme park all of a sudden.
Whoa. Yeah.
And that one kind of made sense. But, yeah, the visuals. So this, I don't understand the motivation with this visual style. They could have done it more stylistic. Because you look at, like, Beauty and the Beast, as awful as a movie that is, the way the characters look is a little stylized. Like, they don't look
It's supposed
realistic.
to be mystical and magical.
Yeah, because it's not real.
Yeah.
You can make something look detailed, and, you know, I don't know. I think if they were going to do a CGI Lion King, they should have done a pretty colorful CGI Lion King.
Yeah.
And it should have had more personality to the looks.
Should have had a style instead of it just being realistic.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Here's something that a comparison that I kind of wanted to bring up was, I compare this to, this is a reference to a game, a niche game, and it's the only one I seem to be able to reference. But Devil May Cry 5 from 4, which was like, kind of had this CG anime look. Mm-hmm. You go to 5, which is hyper detailed and hyper realistic. Like they were scanning real clothes to put onto their jackets and stuff. There's still freaky, crazy demons that they're fighting that look grotesque and detailed. Uh-huh. And this art style hasn't stopped them from doing, like wild, expressive motions and stuff. Like, their cloaks, the way their cloaks will kind of fling around and move. And like when Dante gets a weapon, he does some kind of like dance or whatever. And it's really expressive. That didn't stop them. But I think it's because that's Devil May Cry 5. And Devil May Cry is already hot, like fantasy. Everything's fantasy. Everything's like really stylish. Like someone's going to have some crazy, demonic looking motorcycle. That can look cool in an anime or in photorealistic.
Yeah.
And it serves the same purpose. With this, when you're trying to have a lion looking at, in just regular Africa, looking up into the sky, and clouds are forming into his dead father, who's speaking to him from beyond the grave. It kind of does.
It's kind of like when you actually look up into the clouds, you're like, oh, a lion.
Yeah, it was weird. It was
no.
And here's the thing. The fact that the whole movie was unwilling to look interesting was that I knew if it ever tries to look interesting, it's going to look cheesy and dumb. Yeah. Like when the lightning strikes at the very end of the finale of the movie, when the lightning strikes that shrubbery or whatever and makes it catch on fire, I was like, that looked stupid and cheap. That looked really cheesy and out of place. The whole movie's looked realistic. That looked goofy. Like, it looked like an awkward CG effect in an indie movie that the whole movie has looked realistic during. You're exhausted.
Oh, I am, yes. But that's okay.
Kind of like Scar in this movie and his performance.
Oh my god. It was so
dull. Also, his singing voice. Ugh. I didn't care for it.
It's like he kind of like, he
sounded tired and he had like a dry mouth.
Yeah.
And it's
talking, singing thing. Like the whole his song in the cave.
Be prepared.
Be prepared. That whole number, I feel like the whole time I was just waiting for him to actually break out in song.
Me too. It was like I was waiting for the song to start.
Yeah.
I was
like waiting for like some sort of build up and for there to be like, a climax to the song, but there never was.
It looked like Solo, where everything's
singing.
just kind of dark blue and impossible to see.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't actually see what was going on. There was no choreography. The hyenas are just kind of watching him.
Yeah.
Timidly, like walk up this path, looking tired and pathetic.
There was no like military marching.
Weird like
together with just.
There was no call to action, which is the point of that song. He's supposed to motivate them.
You know what this made me want going to watch this movie? Is to go see the original.
Yeah.
It just made me really want to go buy like a Blu-ray copy of the original with surround sound and just immerse myself in the amazing artistic musical
accomplishment.
Man.
That original is a masterwork. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, this could have come close, but it seems like it just deliberately doesn't. Uh-huh. And I don't know, it's because the creators were held back by the studio, or they just wanted to commit to something that was the completely wrong choice. But it's not just the visuals. It's like, in the performances, like, everyone in this movie is a bad actor, even though there are good actors in the movie. There's not a single good performance in the movie. The way they were directed was like, I don't know, has Jon Favreau directed animation before this? He did Jungle Book, and Jungle Book was better than this.
Oh yeah, Jungle Book was really good. They had like amazing voice actors.
Well, and they had like Bill Murray, and he was being Bill Murray and expressive and fun, like Baloo.
Okay, yeah. What happened to all the animated, like fun They're still realistic looking.
Jungle
animals.
Book was a little cheesier. It was having more fun. Why wasn't this?
This is like a very dark rendition of.
It's not even dark. I wouldn't even give it that. It's just gray. It's dull,
just bland.
forgettable.
It's just bleh.
Scar has no spite. He doesn't seem to be enjoying this,
No.
which is wrong.
Yeah.
Like, Scar is having a great time in The Lion
he's
King
not
until the very
sinister.
end.
He's just twisted.
Yeah, he's having a great time until the very end when he's about to be eaten alive.
Yeah.
Like, even up to the point where he's cowing to Simba at the end and he's going to walk away. When he says, that line, that gives me chills when he goes, Your Majesty. In this one, it was like, Your Majesty. And then he, flings dust at him. Whereas in the original, it's, Your Majesty. And it's like, ooh, Scar's mad. He's got this whole air of, he's super arrogant, and I'm smarter than everyone. And, he's got this kind of, he emotes. He's got, a way he stands. He looks down his nose at you. In this, he's just...
Yeah.
It's like, good Lord, what happened? Did they just shoot everyone with tranquilizers when they were recording their lines? And they got what they could before they fell asleep. Seems like Donald Glover came in and gave his first run on every single script, and he didn't see the script beforehand.
Yeah.
Where it was like, he came in there, tired, hadn't had his coffee yet, and they're like, here, read some notes we have for the script. He read those, barely awake, and they were like, they didn't call him again, and he, didn't know. Maybe he didn't know where they were supposed to record it. All of the lines of Simba's... okay. There are way worse performances. Like, Beyonce, worst actor in the movie. All of her lines are
Young
awful.
Simba was probably the best.
Young Simba's probably the best.
In the whole movie.
Young Simba and Young Nala did a pretty good job.
They did a really good job.
They made me feel like, this is like the original. They have energy.
They're
awake.
kids and they were thinking, this is the Lion King. We're going to have fun. Everybody
Yeah.
else was just like, realistic rendition of
I wish they were
Lion King.
making that face.
Oh, yeah, you're
I
right.
wish they could at least make a face. They were the...
Oh my God.
Scar, okay,
Okay.
so Scar and James Earl Jones, both, I say James Earl Jones, Scar and Mufasa, their faces look like this the whole movie.
Yep.
Because that's what animals look like.
I feel like the only people that had some sort of character in their face were the hyenas, but they were horrifying, and I'm going to have nightmares about them.
The hyenas were kind of just like this the whole movie.
Yeah, but they were still horrifying.
But the point I'm trying to make is they just make those faces,
Yeah.
but you can have a voice that overcomes that. That didn't happen in this. I think, here's another kind of a game reference, because this is all I'm capable of, but the new remake of Destroy All Humans, they're just taking the original voice tracks from the original game and animating around those. New, higher budget CG and new engine and all that stuff, but they're taking the original files of those recordings, the original performances, and it looks great. They should have done that. This is already an animated movie. You didn't need to cast new people because it isn't live action. Like, live action, you need to cast someone to be there in front of the camera. It's probably not the same person because voice actors tend to not look like their characters. Not like it matters in The Lion King, but you could have just taken, the original score. The score was muted in this. Hans Zimmer's score in the original is just kicking the door down, and it's just got a whole brass section on its shoulder, and it's just it's so bombastic and energetic and just listen. It's loud. In this, it was I don't even notice it.
I don't remember if there was any of that.
There's no just indulgent drama in the images or the audio. In the original, that part where he's looking up at Mufasa and there's actually tears forming in his eyes from the awe of the light coming through the clouds. You don't get that.
Nope.
And then you remember how right after that he has that scene with Rafiki where it's the cool thing where it's the past can hurt, and he's like, but you can live from it or learn from it. They have that cool scene, which isn't in this movie. And then
there's a lot of those.
Yeah. And then there's addition.
Rafiki is missing from this movie.
Yeah, all of his stuff. Hold on, I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Then when Simba is running back to the Pride Lands, and they have that amazing shot where it's super zoomed out and you see him running across the desert full speed, but then superimposed on top of it is a close-up of him slow motion
Yeah. Oh.
going through the sand. It's got that score just busting through the speakers, and you're just like,
The prodigal son.
the king has returned. Like when you're getting excited, it's that original is an emotional roller coaster, and it's almost the same script as this, but it's the execution that makes it so emotional, and that's where it's like, movies are a visual medium. If you're not doing the visuals, you've completely screwed up. Like you've missed the point. Make an audiobook.
That was another thing. The cinematography and like the choosing of angles was
so
just,
dull.
Yeah.
And not like
It
Jon
was all-
Favreau.
It was all just like straight on the scene.
Yeah, it looked like a nature documentary.
The only interesting thing I can think of is when Simba was on top of that anthill and they had it just kind of looking up at him. But that was like,
That was the one time I even remember that image.
Yep.
It was actually okay.
I was like, oh, okay, an interesting angle. And then it never happened again. Not even during like the big fight scenes. I feel there was like one scene, the scene
There was
where they
one-
showed the shadows.
Okay, so there's two. I
Fine,
remember two
whatever.
images. That one with the termites.
Yeah.
And then the scene where it's like it holds for a second, and it's kind of the angle is a really wide angle, so everything's kind of like bulged and exaggerated in the way that like they're like throwing haymakers at each other, like
I
big,
remember that.
huge, realistic, muscular lions attacking each other,
Yeah.
and that was
That
cool.
was
So I was
cool.
like, this whole movie could have looked better.
Yeah, this
It
whole-
wasn't just that it's realistic CGI.
Yeah.
It could have looked better. It could have been shot better.
Uh-huh.
Remember in Hakuna Matata when it does the transition of him getting older?
Yeah.
Why was it this awkward fade into not quite right lined up images where I'm like, this movie's animated. You could have lined it up perfectly like the original. Just make it realistic CGI. Have some fun for once in your life.
Yeah.
And Jon Favreau has fun. Jon Favreau freaking made Cowboys and Aliens. He knows how to have fun. He made Iron Man 1 and 2, and 2 wasn't great, but 2 was still fun and had, like, interesting angles and stuff.
Yeah.
He made Chef, which is one of the best movies ever made,
Chef.
as
Oh.
far as I'm concerned. Do we have it over here?
No, we don't.
I thought we had it.
I think we rented it
We should go
for an
get it.
extended period.
The movie's
of time.
amazing. Get
Yes.
get Chef on Blu-ray. Gosh, the
If
movie's
you want
so
some
good.
Jon Favreau, just
If you want his actual masterpiece,
Yeah.
like the peak of what he has accomplished, it was so good.
I want to go watch The Lion King. I want to watch Chef.
He made Elf. He can do humor so well.
What happened?
I don't know. I think either Disney happened,
Yeah.
but Disney also did Jungle Book, and Jungle Book he also did, which was more fun.
Yeah.
In its cinematography, I think it was more like it might have been his decision to just be like, I'm going to commit to making this as hyper photorealistic as possible and make the animals look as real as possible. Do it like a nature documentary. Maybe it was a matter of the director just becoming a tyrant that no one said no to, and he got stuck on this decision. He got obsessed with it, and he wouldn't budge. So it's like, I have this one vision, and it's like, it was the wrong call, and they committed to it too hard. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe this falls on Jon Favreau.
Maybe.
You know, everyone loves to just blame everything on Disney, but it's like, there could be more to it, because Disney has made some of these others, and they
Yeah.
didn't look quite so dull. I don't think this is the dullest looking of all of them, for sure. I thought it was, what? There's no, just movie, I feel nothing. I want to watch the original. Oh, okay, that reminds me. The opening. You know, the, Savannah!
Yeah.
That whole thing that everyone loves, because it's awesome. In this, it looks good. It looks pretty. And it's like, that's like the realistic version of this.
That's what I had high hopes with that first scene, because they had like, they had the sun coming up and there was different lighting going on in the sky and there was interesting angles with all of the shots they were doing with all the animals running in. I was like, oh yes, exciting. Can't wait.
Well, unfortunately, while that is really pretty, that gives the live action its best chance. That was its chance to shine. And it's still grandiosely inferior to the original, because animation just does that kind of thing better. There's a thing called hyperreal or hyperreality, where it's the one I like to reference is the slight camera shake and focus changes in How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
Because you're imitating reality to such a degree that it's like a more stimulating version of things you've already seen. Real waterfalls in nature are pretty. They look nice. They look cool. Like, of course they do.
Yeah.
You could just stare at one for hours. But one in an animated movie that's been animated really well, like the original Lion King, like, when they show that waterfall and they show those birds flying in front of the waterfall, and the animated one, it's just like, it's just like
that whole movie is. Yeah.
Gosh, like it's just amazing. And in this one, it's just like, oh, waterfall. Mm-hmm. And they could have
I've
done
seen one of them before. Yep.
Yeah.
It's like one of those.
what they could have done, even with this photorealism, because I don't think it's the main problem. You could have done the photorealism and given Simba a red mane, given Mufasa a red mane. You could have done it. You could have given him more yellowish fur. Could have given them more expressive eyes.
Yeah, you could have given them eyebrows or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you could have done all of that. It's not just that it's realistic CGI. You could have done a lot better, especially with the money that they clearly had.
Yeah.
But like, you could have come up with a more interesting landscape to fictionalize, like the original did. What, did they go on location to Africa and then CG an exact replica? No, they didn't. That'd be nonsense. Of course they didn't do that. Maybe they looked up some pictures, but this takes place in a fictional Africa. You know, nature doesn't actually operate like this at all. Lions aren't the kings of any jungle. They don't even live in the jungle. They hang out in the savannah and they kind of just sleep all the time. And every once in a while, the females will go hunt some food, bring it back to the male, who's just kind of sitting there being a fat doof.
Yep.
Like, lions aren't as cool as they are in this movie.
So why couldn't you just add that little extra?
Yeah, exactly. Why not just
No
lean
one
into...
believes that lions are actually like this. You're not gonna,
Right.
ruin some child's life. Because
Also,
he's gonna
who
go
cares?
to school and be like, "I'm just the king of the jungle," and then the teacher's gonna be like, "No, you're stupid."
False. There's so much more I could say.
The point of this video is, though, that the new Lion King sucks. Go watch the original.
Yes. And do you remember when they re-released the original into theaters?
Yes.
And it was really successful.
Yeah.
And everyone loved it because it's an amazing movie. Bring it back to theaters.
Why not do it again? Remaster it,
Yeah.
release it again. That would have been...
It's like they've done this kind of thing before. Just do it again. Or make a new story.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't
Make a sequel if you're gonna,
and make
I don't
Lion
know.
King 3. Well, the thing is, the amount of money they spent on this CG movie is not the amount of money that they would have spent on a 2D animated movie. Especially not at this point.
Yeah.
It's now more expensive to do 2D animation because there's fewer people just doing it. So, like, equipment, people to employ. Yeah, it's less viable because of that. But you could have gone the Into the Spider-Verse route and made this a lavishly gorgeous 3D animated movie with a totally different style. And if you were going to do this kind of thing, take the original script, original actors, take all those old sound bites and just change what happens on screen. That would make the movie pace better automatically.
Yeah.
One more thing. That scene with the dung beetle.
Yes.
Why was that like 3 minutes long? That meant nothing. Why did we see a little piece of Simba's hair go
I
through...
wanted to show how well they could do macro shots.
I guess so.
Yeah.
That was a tech demo. That was them showing off their CG tech.
Yep. Look how we blurred this part of the image, but the beetle's in focus.
Yeah, this movie's really cynical, and it makes you sad and feel nothing. So go watch the original, because it's the total opposite. It's an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah. I wanted to cry.
Oh man, I love crying in the
Mufasa-
original.
Yeah. Or the scene where Mufasa died, I wanted to cry there, but then I was just like,
I'm not
how can
feeling
I
it.
cry when I'm not feeling any reverberated emotion coming off of any of the characters?
Yeah. This also sums up the movie. Jon Favreau, get out from under Disney. Go back to doing independent movies. Chef was amazing. Please do something like that again. You're amazing.
Yes.